Hey guys, welcome back to another video of Bass Fishing Declassified. This week's video is going to be a pretty fun one because we're talking about topwaters, and you're going to get the juice from multiple anglers across different regions of the United States talking to you about topwaters. So let's just get right into it.
All right, guys, so even though I now live in Tennessee and primarily fish the TVA fisheries when I'm not fishing on the tour, I grew up in California, and so I cut my teeth on the West Coast, and so I love West Coast fishing, and I did it for quite some time. So I wanted to share with you two of my favorite topwater baits for West Coast fishing, and you know, most of my experience is in Northern California and Central California, and these are really good topwaters I've caught numerous fish on, countless fish. So the first one is more geared towards those deeper fisheries that are very plentiful in California. You know, those canyon reservoirs such as Lake Oroville or Lake Shasta, you know, those lakes that are very clear, very deep. This bait right here, a walking topwater bait like a Zara Spook, is my absolute favorite. The thing that a Zara Spook or a walking bait does really well is it calls fish from deeper water. So it has a lot of sound, it has a lot of that erratic action that you impart, and so it can call fish from, you know, 30+ feet of water sometimes, and that's the type of topwater that you want on these fisheries. So the basic type of structure, the areas that I'm going to be fishing a Zara Spook or a walking bait is generally going to be long tapering structure. So a lot of the lakes are very steep, but you're also going to find some longer points, you know, points that taper out, take a long time to taper out. Those are the type of structures that I really like to fish a walking bait. Also humps, saddles, those are all different situations that I love throwing this bait. Another thing that I like to do, especially during the fall, is even fish bluff banks, you know, parallel bluff banks with a topwater like this, and just cover water. That's the big key, and that's one of the things that the Zara Spook or just walking baits in general do really well. You can cover a ton of water and call those fish up from deeper water. All right, so on the other side of the spectrum, for those shallow fisheries such as the California Delta, Clear Lake, I'm even going to throw in a kind of like a sneaky one, the After Bay near Oroville. Those shallow fisheries that maybe have a lot of grass, a lot of tules, I'm going to be throwing my favorite shallow water topwater, which is a buzzbait. So my two favorite colors are like white and chartreuse, or just plain white, and then of course black. These are both going to work really well under certain conditions, but the great thing about a buzzbait is that you can cover a bunch of water with it, even more so than the walking topwater, because the walking bait, you actually have to work that thing, and it takes a little bit of time for it to get back. But with a buzz bait, you can just lob this down the bank, parallel the bank, 45-degree the bank, and just reel it back in very quickly. So it's a extremely efficient bait. It's really good for breaking down you know, long stretches of bank and finding that little sweet spot. And the one thing that I really like fishing a buzzbait on, especially if you're fishing the Delta, is riprap. You know, anytime you can throw this up against riprap and kind of you know, parallel it or 45-degree it, that's a prime situation for a buzzbait. And when you get in the right area, they're just going to clobber this bait, and it's a lot of fun to fish. So these are my favorite topwaters. Go give them a try out on your favorite West Coast fishery.
Really quick, if you guys enjoy the content in this video and want more personalized instruction, head to our website, fishthemoment.com. Then go to the virtual lessons page. Here you can book one-on-one virtual lessons with each member of the Fish the Moment team. In these 1-hour lessons, the Fish the Moment team member will break down your lake using Google Earth and a contour line map and answer any questions you have. Whether you're preparing for an upcoming fishing tournament or a fun weekend on the lake, make sure you sign up for one of these one-on-one virtual lessons so you're fully prepared to catch as many fish as possible on the water. Check them out at fishthemoment.com.
Today we're going to talk about topwater lures on the Ozark Lakes during the fall time of the year, because man, there is nothing funner than catching bass on topwater. And I'm going to go over 3 of my favorite topwater lures to use this time of year in the Ozark Lakes, and they'll work in different, lakes across the country that are sort of set up similar to the Ozark lakes in terms of rocks and cleaner type water. There's a lot of different topwaters that work, but I've been fishing here in the Ozarks, since I was a little kid, for over 50 years. And there's 3 that have really sort of outperformed the others more than anything else. So I'm going to go through each one of them. I'm sort of going to explain to you guys when they work the best. The first one we're going to talk about is just the trusty buzzbait. Now, the buzzbait is a huge player in the Ozark Lakes, especially this time of year, like in November, December, when those water temperatures start to get down into the 50s. Now, you can catch bass on a buzzbait, from spring all through summer and fall, but in the fall time of the year, there's a window of time where you can catch some really quality fish. Like, you can average a 3 to 5 pound average in the fall time of the year on a buzzbait. This is the Megabass Jamaican Boa buzzbait. It's a large buzzer. In the fall time of the year, I like a large buzzer because what you're looking for this particular lure this time of year is you need to find a little bit off-colored water. So I like to find water visibility less than 3 feet. Now, you can find a lot of this water visibility like on lakes like, Lake of the Ozarks, Truman Lake, portions of Table Rock Lake, Stockton Lake, in the river and creek arms. You need to have a little bit of color in the water. And what happens is when that water temperature gets down like into the mid 50s, sort of at the point where a lot of people think it may be too cold for topwater, that's when you want to tie the big buzzbait on, like the Jamaican Boa. You want to find those steeper, not steep, but like a 45-degree angle, rocky banks. If you have some boat docks around, it's even better. And basically fish this thing right on the bank. Those big gizzard shad will cruise that bank this time of year, and this is what that buzzbait, sort of resembles. So cast it up and almost hit the rocks. I like to literally almost hit the bank with it, and just keep your rod tip high and fish it with a real slow retrieve, just slow enough to keep the blades above the water. I have caught some great fish this time of year on the big buzzbait. The second one we'll talk about is the old Ozark staple too. It's a walking topwater. This is the Megabass Giant Dog X. You can use a Zara spook. You can use whatever your favorite walking topwater is. These have been catching bass in Ozark Lakes as long as I can remember. Back into the 50s even, they've been catching bass. The Zara spook, to a large degree, was made famous on Bull Shoals and Table Rock Lake. And the places I like to fish this are basically on main lake and secondary points under low light conditions this time of year. I'll just cover water. I'll put my boat like in 10 foot of water, and I'll fish the point ends and about 100 yards down each side of the point, just covering water. And I'm trying to stay on areas that have shade on it, or fish it on days that are a little bit cloudy, a little bit overcast. And obviously all these topwaters are going to work better on your cloudy days. And the last one is a wake bait. This is the Megabass iJack here. Redfin, anything like that is a good wake bait. But the wake bait is a great lure in the Ozark Lakes when those fish are a little bit deeper. A lot of times what happens in the fall is these fish will get out off the end of the points, and they suspend out like over 10 to 30 foot of water over these points, especially on the lakes that, like in Missouri, that has a good mixed population of bass, like spotted bass, smallmouth, and largemouth. This is when you can really catch them on the wake bait. The key with the wake bait, guys, is you need no wind. The wake bait works best on low light conditions where that lake is completely glass smooth, because this thing, what you want it to do, it's called a wake bait because it will throw a wake off. The thing just sort of wobbles along the top like this, and you'll see a V just coming out from behind the bait. And this is when that bait really works good. Low light conditions, when those bass are suspended out a little bit deeper on those points, clear water with not much wind, and it'll bring those fish out of that deeper water. So there it is, guys. You can do really good in the Ozark Lakes or any lake across the country that has clear water and rocks. Buzz bait, wake bait, walking topwater, it's about all you need. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch y'all later.
So I'm going to get to talk to you about Oklahoma topwater fishing. It's cold. It's November, December, the fall transitions. It's occurred. The lakes have turned over, and now we're going to go topwater fishing in Oklahoma. Look, I'm born and raised. Oklahoma, that's my place. So I've done a lot of topwater fishing this time of year. Buzz baits are probably my favorite topwater bait in the state of Oklahoma, and you need multiple colors. You got to have a black one. You got any kind of stained water at all, and sometimes it don't matter if it's stained. Sometimes they just love a black buzz bait in the state of Oklahoma this time of year. You got to have a white one, and then you always got to have one that has some kind of chartreuse integrated into the skirt, maybe even a little blaze orange trailer, kind of coleslaw colored. I've caught some really big bags of fish this time of year on Grand Lake using a coleslaw colored buzzbait or something with some orange chartreuse and white in it. So that's a little tip for you on Grand Lake this time of year. The Booyah pad crashing frog, both the popping frog and the skimmer frog, those are really good when you get around docks. There's a lot of docks in Oklahoma. You can throw that around there. It's kind of weedless. It bounces off things. There's no treble hooks on it. Don't overlook fishing a frog around docks or flooded cypress trees and stuff this time of year. They will catch some really big bass. And then you've got the Booyah popper, any kind of popping bait. I love this time of year. You can really slow it down. A lot of times those fish like that slow badook, badook. And just wait a minute, badook, badook. It's cold outside. The fish get a little bit sluggish. And that Booyah popper is a fantastic topwater bait to throw. I really like throwing that around shallow rock points. A lot of my topwater fishing this time of year with the buzz bait and the walking baits and the popping baits, I'm fishing shallow rocky points, and I'm talking about long points that come out that are only 3 or 4 foot deep. One tip I want to make sure to share with you guys: if you're throwing a treble hook style bait, this is my Booyah popper. If you're throwing a head and spook or any treble hook style bait, you need to look into these bait sacks. Calco's Fishing, the rebranding is Tackle Works, and this is just an awesome accessory that you got to have. We've seen those wraps that kind of don't work that good. These work amazing. You drop your bait, literally drop your bait in it, and if you want, you can wrap your line around this little loop so it doesn't pull the bait out, and then it literally just clamps to your blank, and it's safe and it's snug. It ain't going nowhere. It can ride on the deck of the boat. I love them in the rod box. It keeps things from getting hooked onto each other. I'll give them to my coilers that have treble hooks, and I don't want them in my seat. So check those out. They're like less than 10 bucks or around 10 bucks. That's a cool thing that I want to show everybody, just a little tip. Now, what size rod, what size reel, what am I using to throw these topwaters? Man, you know, it keep it pretty simple here in Oklahoma. Almost all my topwaters are going to be on a 7.4 medium heavy. I like a longer stout rod. I could even go up to like a 7.6 heavy, something I can bomb it out there a long way. A lot of times you got these big old treble hooks, and it's fine to just wrench on them, you know, get them in a boat. But this is a 7'4" medium heavy. My other one over here that I'm about to show you, it's on a little bit longer rod, but that's a series 2 Kiss the Reel 7.3 to 1. I'm throwing 30 to 50 pound braid all day long. That's all you really need it for most of these baits. A lot of our stuff here in Oklahoma is stained water, so it doesn't matter. They ain't really looking at it. They're coming up there to eat it. But if you do get into some of our cleaner waters, then I'll probably throw this other setup over here. So here I got one of my Booyah buzz baits on this one. If I'm gonna go fish some clean water, say like Lake 10 Killer, it's got really clean water and it's got a great topwater bait, by the way. I'm gonna throw monofilament, probably anywhere from 15 to 17 pound monofilament. That's a series 1 Kiss the Reel. This is a 7.6 heavy rod. I can really bomb it out there. Man, those are some great topwater tips from our pros around the country. Thanks for tuning in. Click like, click subscribe. We'll see you guys on the next Bass Fishing Declassified.